Welcome back. It's time for a West of Loathing. So I'm pretty sure I remember what I need to ask at the gallery. You need to do things in a specific order in order for her to throw the book at you. Let's see. Go ahead. Okay. No question. Did they set a specific time for the duel? Yes, high noon. Figures. Why is it always high noon? Tradition, I suppose. Since the sun is at its highest in the sky, everything's brightly lit and there aren't many shadows. That's good for gunfighting. Makes sense. Plus you can go and have your duel on your lunch break. What happened next? Next day, they both showed up shortly before noon. Squared off. Okay. Exactly noon? So Mackency fired as soon as the church bells struck noon. Objection! God, what the heck? Mackency fired at the wrong time. What are you talking about? He fired exactly at noon with the church bells. There are witnesses. That's right. He fired at clock noon, but the duel was set for high noon. They aren't the same thing. High noon is just when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. Depending on geography and the time of the year, it can be hours different from clock noon. Mackency fired early, and that makes the duel illegal. So what do you say to that, counselor? Felicity gives you a slow smile. I got handed to you, Prosecutor McGee. You're a lot better at this than I was giving you credit for. That's a good thought you had there. There's just one problem with it. Oh, what's that? I already thought that. Take that. She hurls a small book at you, which you just barely managed to catch. 1878 Nautical Almanac. Gah! What the heck is this? I did my homework when I was preparing for that trial. My legal homework. Since at the time I expected there to be an actual trial, not a gunfight. What you're holding there is a nautical almanac for the year 1878. There are bookmarks if you'd like to do the math yourself. But if you look up solar noon, aka high noon, for June 18th and make the adjustment for Reno's longitude, what do you think you get? You've got to be kidding me. That's right, Miss Prosecutor. 12 o'clock p.m. Precisely. No! Well, damn. Nice try, though. I mean that sincerely. That's all my ammo. I can't think of any other way to disprove Mackency's innocence. As far as I can see, it was a fair duel. Yes, that's me with the guilt of an innocent man's death on my hands. An innocent man's death. You sure are good at repeating things people say. What if he didn't die? Say what now? Well, you didn't actually see the execution, right? Well, yes, I was indisposed, you might say, being dead and all. So you don't actually know whether or not it happened. Oh, come on. Look, I appreciate the effort, but you're barking at the moon. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back. Let's see. Okay. Look at dates. This book is almost entirely tables of numbers, labeled things like logarithm of the radius vector of the Earth. You can look up any day in the year 1878 in it, though who knows if you'll be able to figure anything out from what it gives you. Look up a date. It was July. Pick a day. 29. That's when Mackency was going to be executed. Let's see. Wow, wait a minute. According to this, there was a total eclipse of the sun that day, centered right over the Western Territories, and with its totality at 2:47 p.m. That's a hell of a thing. Let's see. Got a question for you. Go ahead. Was the trial right after the duel, the 19th? No. I don't know what Reno's like now, but didn't they have a proper courthouse then? You can't try a murder charge in the sheriff's front parlor. Mackency sat in jail for a couple weeks, then they transported him to Frisco. What with one thing and another, trial didn't start until July 25th. Geez, so much for the right to a speedy trial. The wheels grind slow. When was the execution? Well, we had the trial by combat on 26th, so that was a Friday. They don't execute prisoners on the weekend, so presumably it would have been the following Monday, the 29th. In the morning? What was setting up the gallows and letting the crowd gather? It usually happened in the afternoon, around 3 typically. I looked up July 29th in your almanac. And get this, there was a total eclipse of the sun that day. What? Now you're just messing with me. No, look for yourself. Totality at 2:47 p.m., right over the Western Territories. Well, that's quite a thing, but I don't see how that affects... Wait, unless you're suggesting... Right, it was a perfect opportunity for Mackency to escape. That's absurd. Absurd like a fox. I mean, it's a totally ridiculous coincidence, sure, but it happened. But Mackency couldn't possibly have taken advantage of it, because he'd have been as surprised by it as anyone else. Maybe if he'd have the opportunity to plan it all out, sure. But you'll need a lot more to convince me of that. I'll be right back. Check the library for newspapers, see if it says anything about that date and if anyone escaped. Let's see. Maybe I have to keep talking to her, then she suggests a newspaper? I remember some things about this, but not completely. Let's see. He was a gunfighter through and through. And by that, I mean he was an adrenaline addict. Dueling was his needle of choice. Hell, if you had told me you had evidence that he cheated at poker with this specific intent of baiting people into challenging him to duels, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. He was a sly one. Her expression softens and he sighs. I make him sound like a real devil. That's not fair. He was smart and charming, and could have been a good man if he'd chosen an entirely different life for himself. Anything else? Well, I recall he had a real good head for numbers. Told me that he never forgot a date, never a man he'd ever killed. He'd remember to pour a beer on their grave for on their birthday. Well, that's nice. Nice their birthday present would have been not having killed him in the first place, of course. Yep. July 29th. Let's see. You said what with one thing and another, the trial didn't start until July 25th. Mackency could have caused any of those delays himself by faking illness in prison or messing with the horses on the ride to Frisco or anything. This could also explain the trial by combat. You mean there ended up being too much delay, so if a regular trial went on too long and he was found guilty, he'd have missed the eclipse? Exactly. Whereas if he called by trial for trial by combat, everything would be resolved one way or another in only one more day. Maybe you'd win and that'd be fine, but if he lost, he could use his escape plan. I have to admit this is pretty compelling, but it's all maybes and what ifs. Yeah, maybe it happened, but maybe Mackency was rescued by leprechauns. Oh man, are there leprechauns in Frisco? Need some kind of hard evidence before any of this is more than just a fun story, is what I mean. How can I find evidence of Mackency's escape? Well, we don't know an escape even happened, true. Something like that would have been in the news for certain. Okay, I'll see what I can find. Maybe now I can find newspapers? Ooh, we find a few bundles of old newspapers at the bottom of one shelf. The Frisco Newsinator. You start at the bottom of the stack and flip through them until you find the paper for the week of July 28th through August 3rd, 1878. Main feature has to do with the eclipse and various accidents and spectacles that occurred. because most people weren't expecting it. The editor apologized for burying the announcement in the previous week's weather forecast. Most notably, all 3 men scheduled to be hanged on the 29th escaped in the confusion. Only 2 of them were recaptured. Unfortunately, their names aren't given. You don't find anything else relevant to the case. However, as you're putting the papers back in order on the shelf, a headline on a more recent issue catches your eye. Husband of famous inventor missing. The article is light on information, but apparently Mrs. Gunn's husband Dan vanished on the road while traveling to Dirtwater on business about 6 years ago. Law enforcement suspected bandits, but no evidence was found. That's kind of grim. I can go talk to her about this. I got a question for you. I found a newspaper article. The guys scheduled to be executed the day of the eclipse escaped, and one of them was never caught. Which one? Well, didn't say he did it. Nope, damn it. And executed criminals aren't given gravestones with their names on them, so you can't just go looking around Frisco Cemetery to find out. Listen, Emmy, I really appreciate what you're trying to do, but at this point you would have to actually find McCready himself to prove he wasn't executed due to my failure. Well, I guess that's what I'll do then. Alright. So, go back to the coach. Go back to Dirtwater. Let's see. Maybe the postmaster? I'm trying to find a guy named McCready. There's a possibility he might have passed through here about 17 years ago. Passed through? We don't stamp passports here. Yeah, If he stayed for a while, I might have a forwarding address. Ooh, can you check, please? Alright, them books could use a dusting anyway. One sec. She pulls some big ledgers out of her desk and blows a huge cloud of dust into the air and starts weaving through them. 17 years. Round about 78 then? 76, 77, 78. Marin, Mableston, McMurphy, McCready. Got a Mac McCready? That the one? That's him. No forwarding address, but you could ask at his old place, just out of the northwest of here. Let me see your map. Oh yeah, looks like you already got it here. Desert House. That's the one. Thanks. Oh man, this is exciting. Desert House. I'm gonna take a sip of tea. So this was his house? And McCready. Dig up the grave. You dig until your shovel hits a wooden coffin and haul the lid open. A skeleton blinks at you. Well, it doesn't, but anyway. Howdy? Howdy. Are you guilty, McCready? Well now, I ain't heard that nickname in, what year is it? 1895. 17 years. No, I tell a lie. There was that one time 8 years ago. The same McCready that escaped the gallows during an eclipse? Well, now, since the statute of limitations expired, might as well fess up. Yep, that was me. Real sweet plan, too. Apart from one little hitch, and went off smooth as silk. Even worked in a little misdirection to lead the law to them 2 other fellers, instead of me. Serves them right, too. 'Cause they was real murderers, not like me. I never killed a man except in a fair fight. Except for that one little hitch you mentioned, You miscalculated how long to delay the trial. So, in order not to miss the eclipse, you called for a trial by combat. Oh, well, yep, that's the truth of it. You're blaming me for Miss Wainwright's death, I suppose. Why didn't you just trust her? She would have gotten you declared innocent. She had a real good head on her shoulders, sure, but so did that prosecutor fella. I didn't rate the odds better than 50-50. Not good enough. And anyway, the trial by combat was part of her job. She should have been ready. That stinks. She trusted you. She's a ghost now because she feels guilty about losing that trial. I spent ages trying to convince her you weren't innocent, and she backed you every step of the way despite the fact that you got her killed. You don't even care? Hell, you bite your tongue, Missy. You don't know me. Don't care? I did what I felt I had to do to stay alive. I felt damn guilty about what happened to Miss Wainwright. But I ain't taking all the blame for it. No, ma'am. She'll tell you herself she should have been better prepared, just like she told me that day, apologizing with her last breath. I gave up gunfighting for her. Gave up the only thing I lived for. That's how I felt about it. You gave up gunfighting? Weren't easy, but I did. Bought this house, bought this land, raised some chickens, and had a little vegetable garden. Place I've gone to hell since I died. That's a shame. Anyway, I never fired my pistol again. Not even at a damn fence post. That's not what it says on your grave. Oh, read it again. That's the fellow what killed me having a little ironic joke, I reckon. Someone killed you? You're only the second person to track me down. First one was 9 years after the trial. Vic Timsbury's brother hunting for revenge. What happened? He challenged me to a duel. I told him I ain't doing that no more. He asked again and I said no. He hollered at me and I took my pistol out of the closet and threw it at his feet so he could see how the cylinder was all rusted shut. And he cocked his gun and asked me one last time, and I said no. Last thing I remember's the bang. Jeez. Kinda him to bury me, though. Guess he weren't all that bad. Do you want to see Felicity again? I could take you to her ghost. Nah, I reckon I'll just go back to sleep. Ain't right, a dead fellow walking around. Just tell her sorry for me, alright? Here, you can give her my pocket watch. She'll recognize it. Alright. Bye, Mackency. So long, miss. You close the coffin and fill the hole back in. We learned the truth! Oh, man. Hell calf. Sure. Bonk. Woo! Extra thick leather. Huh. Okay. Now we can go back. Heck yeah. Alright. While we make our way back up, I'm going to take a sip of more tea. Okay. Time to help her rest. Hey, I got a question for you. Are you ready for this? What now? I found Mackency's grave. He wasn't executed. You're 100% certain it's him, not some other man named Mackency? It was him. Here, he gave me his watch to give you. She turns the watch around in her hands for a while, just looking at it without saying anything. Then she slowly winds it and listens as it chimes the hour. Yes, this was his watch, all right. Thank you. Wait, you said he gave it to you. He's alive? Not exactly. He's a skeleton. We talked for a while, then he asked me to bury him again so he could go back to sleep. What did he say? He confirmed our guesses. He knew about the eclipse in advance and stalled the trial for his escape plan, but stalled it too long and decided to hedge his bet by crawling for the trial by combat. I see. He gave up gunfighting. He what? He bought a little house and raised chickens. Never fired his pistol again. In fact, he left it to rust. 9 years later, Timsbury's brother caught up to him and challenged him to a revenge match. Mackency refused repeatedly, so the guy shot him. He said to tell you he was sorry. Aw. She looks at you silently for a moment and looks at the watch. She winds the hands back a minute and listens as it chimes again. She sighs and shakes her head and smiles at you. Thank you, Yamaii. You'd make a damn fine attorney. She shakes your hand and fades from view. As she does so, leaving her attorney's badge in your hand. Yay! Ooh, that's nice. Rest in peace, counselor. We did it! Hooray, hooray, hooray. Do, do, do. Do 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 do. You okay there? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can. Maybe if I leave the room and come back? Whew. Why are you still acting like a... Okay. Okay. I guess I'll come back for that guy. How many ghosts are left, Florence? 2 ghosts left on the premises. 1 left on the second and 1 left on the third. Science junk. Medicinal gas. I've got a library down the hall here. Think they'll have any good science books? Yeah, I've read all the good ones. Oh, unless maybe they have the new issue of Inscrutable Mechanics? Well, one way to find out. Aww. Penny is sleeping next to me and she's snoring. What a cutie. Okay. There's 1 more on this floor? Oh, right. The guest room. I can give... Oops. Let's see. I think this is what you're looking for. That's an exploding cigar? Yep, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but not this time. What did you use for the explosive? Find a really small firecracker, just big enough to blow up the cigar without also blowing up someone's face. Also without the, violent lead projectile. You're a genius. Please let me see it in action so I can finally rest. Light it up. Ah! Yay! We did it. You can finally rest. Hooray! Dickling. So only 1 ghost left on the premises, and it's on the, the 3rd floor of the manor. Thanks, talk to you later. Okay. How do I thought for sure all you had to do was get rid of the ghost, and then he would stop acting like a statue. Can't remember if there was something else I needed to do. Well, that was real sweet, how you handled that ghost. Yeah, it's also wildly inefficient. Geez, Florence, you always want to take the violent option. Look, I didn't make this science gun for baking cookies. Does it bake cookies? Yeah, but they come out weird, rubbery. Ew. Messy stripe of brightness on a dark background. Weird. Okay. So... 1 more up there. It's Emmy and Florence, ma'am, the ghost hunters. Florence and Emmy, whatever. I do feel significantly less haunted. Did you get rid of all the ghosts? We sure did, ma'am. Actually, my scanner says there's still 1. Shh. Yes, ma'am, all ghosts accounted for. Well, that's splendid. Come right on in. Thanks. Oh, yeah, she's the last ghost. Check these things. Hello, Mrs. Gunn. Hello, Emmy, was it? Thank you so much for getting rid of all those ghosts for me. Yeah, about that. Turns out there's one left. Oh dear, help me, did you take care of it before I can pay you? Miss Gunn, I have some bad news for you. Oh, what's that? It's you. You're a ghost, ma'am. Well, I'll be. When did that happen, I wonder? My condolences. Why, thank you. You're very kind. You know, this does explain some things. Like what? Well, I haven't had any appetite for months. Nearly a year, in fact. They keep sending food up from the kitchen in a dumbwaiter. But I've just been dropping it out the window and sending the empty plates back, so the chef won't have her feelings hurt. There's also the fact that you're, well, translucent. Yes, I thought it was just cataracts. Miss Gunn, this prompts a question, you know. Oh, what's that? Why are you a ghost? Well, I'm sure I don't know. You're the expert. Perhaps you can tell me? Actually, that's me. I'm the expert. Do you have some kind of unfinished business? Something that's tying you to this place? Well, now that you mention it, yes, I suppose I do. Do you mind telling me about it? My entire family disappeared a few years ago. My husband and 3 daughters. Oh, geez. I saw their rooms, but I didn't know they were actually missing. Guess I assumed they were just out of town or something. The sheriff suspected they'd been kidnapped for ransom, but no one ever made any demands. They just vanished. I never found out what happened. I always thought they were taken away by ghosts. Why'd you think that? I've always felt guilty about how many people have been killed by my invention. The belt buckle? The gun. Oh, right. I used to worry that their ghosts would come back to haunt me. When I built this house, I had an electrical anti-ghost field installed in the walls of this room, so they couldn't get in. No way, awesome. Wait, doesn't that affect you? Well, I'm sure it would if I attempted to walk through the wall, but it never occurred to me to try. After Dan and the girls disappeared, I became so sure that ghosts had gotten them that I locked myself in here. After donating the rest of the house to the Historical Society so that there would be someone to look after the place, now I feel rather silly about the whole thing. Silly? I mean, ghosts do exist, obviously. Well, yes, but now that I'm a ghost myself, I can sense the presence of other ghosts. They only just arrived in this house yesterday, or the day before. That was when I called for an exterminator. You know, I didn't even question how I knew they were here, but I don't think there have been any ghosts here before then. Why did they all show up yesterday? I couldn't say. They all seemed very angry and confused, but since they couldn't get in here, they gave up and started just wandering around the house. They gave up quite easily, actually. Maybe because you were already a ghost yourself. Well, Mrs. Gunn, what are we going to do with you? What do you mean? You did contract me for 13 ghosts, man. You're the 13th. Oh, yes. Obviously, I could simply renegotiate the number with you, but perhaps you should go ahead and exorcise me or whatever you do. I'd rather find a more peaceful solution. Peaceful solution? What do you mean? Well, we can also release you from your ghostitude by solving the problem that's keeping you here. In your case, I guess that means finding out what happened to your family. Oh, well, I'll be very grateful if you could. I assume they're dead, and to be honest, I think I've gotten used to that fact. But I surely would like to know what actually happened. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Let's see. I'm guessing there wouldn't be anything. Could try dirt water again. Try. Okay, not him. Will the owner of the saloon know anything? Hey, Lloyd. Maybe my info's too old. I've had a note from some travelers that passed through here about 8 years ago. Oh, yeah, that was the previous bartender. He had a little trick he used to offer to show people. It's what got him fired eventually. The senator's wife wasn't amused. He rummages around under the bar for a minute, and blows the dust off a tiny piano, about 9 inches tall. Here, you can keep the piano as long as you don't ask me about the trick. Huh. Thanks. Okay. Use it? No, I'm enjoying it. Oh, I can just keep hearing it. Interesting. It's like a music player. Huh. Cool. Let's see. What would be the best way to find out that out then? Do 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 do. Info. Oh hi, thanks again for freeing me from that book. You still kind of have marks where the engravings pressed into your face. I'm hoping they fade with time, but if not, I can always quiz myself while shaving. So what do you do here? I provide information. Want some? Sure. Great, that's what I'm here for. What would you like to know? What can you tell me about Ms. Gunn's family? Well, let's see. She married Dan Staple Remover in 1875. He was the inventor of the staple remover. Did you know that? They'd met at an inventors convention 3 years previously. Dan decided to take her last name because he had always wanted to call his invention office chompers. He was always a little annoyed that people called it after him instead. They had 3 daughters named Dorothy, Blanche, and Rose. That's nice. Some very golden girls. Unfortunately, Dan vanished mysteriously in 1889, shortly after Rose was born. Nobody knows what happened to him. It was generally assumed he was killed by bandits while he was on the road for gun industries business. Then all 3 of his girls went missing the year after. They went to summer camp and were just never heard from again. No ransom note or anything. Mrs. Gunn was never the same after that, naturally. She started blaming it on ghosts. So as far as I know, there's been no ghost activity here until just the other day. Interesting. So, So what would be the best way of learning that then? Breaking case of attic. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, I think maybe I'm cutting this video a little bit short, but I don't quite remember the next step. I'll try to remember before next time. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a very comfy night. Bye!